Welcome back to the Team to Beat Miami Heat basketball channel. The Miami Heat have lost again, this time last night to the Chicago Bulls, 113 to 103. The Miami Heat were shorthanded again, and this team simply cannot stay healthy. That has become a constant with this team. So the Heat were missing 3 of their starters. They were also missing Gabe Vincent, who has missed 13 games now this season. That is not an excuse, it's just a fact. The Miami Heat have lost too many games to teams with losing records, and enough is enough, but that simply is hard because the Miami Heat typically don't have enough. So the Miami Heat are now 16-16. They are 8th in the Eastern Conference. They have lost now 5 home games out of 11 to teams with losing records. So don't want to discount the Chicago Bulls. They were 11-18 going into this game. They were on a 4-game losing streak. The Heat were on a 4-game winning streak. So the Bulls were desperate for a victory. They had a lot of urgency coming into this game, and they were the ones who hustled throughout the game. They're the ones who got to all of the loose balls. They're the ones who got more of the second chance points. Alex Caruso is known for his motor and for extending plays, creating opportunities for his teammates. So he did a great job. And so, yeah, it's just tough. It's just this Heat team has been injured throughout the season. They've been inconsistent even when they've had their players in full form. So, yeah, again, frustrated that we lost. Again, this Bulls team is super talented. They have Nikola Vucevic, who's a Miami Heat killer, always shows up against the Heat. He had 29 points and 12 rebounds, so just utterly destroyed us. DeMar DeRozan also typically plays very well against the Heat. He had 24, 5 and 5. They are a super talented team, and their record does not portray where they should be or want to be in the Eastern Conference. But again, just Miami Heat were shorthanded. No Jimmy Butler, no Kyle Lowry, no Caleb Martin, and no Gabe Vincent. So the Miami Heat are 7-5 without Jimmy Butler, but his absence was the big difference, especially when it comes to losing against subpar teams. We've lost to the Pacers, lost to the Spurs, the Pistons, the Wizards, and Chicago, all without Jimmy Butler. So in order for this team to potentially become a contender again, which is what our expectations were going into the season, based off last year and coming in with essentially the same team minus PJ Tucker, you would think that we would be able to handle business at home and beat these sub 500 teams, but we simply aren't. We are losing to the Raptors, we are losing to the Wizards, and all those teams that I mentioned earlier, and that's been without some of our best players. So Tyler Herro has missed over 8 games. Jimmy Butler has now missed 12 games, right? So that's super difficult to overcome. And in the NBA, when you're missing 3 of your starters, it's going to be difficult to beat any team, regardless of their record. So yeah, super tough. This is the 12th different starting lineup that the Miami Heat have had in 32 games. When you have Hayward Highsmith starting and Victor Oladipo, who only has been playing for a few weeks now, that was his 7th game in the starting lineup, you got to expect that you're going to lose, right? So it's just tough. I mean, we started Udonis Haslem, for God's sake, a few weeks ago, who's 42 years old and the oldest player in the NBA. So I'm just frustrated that we just don't have the players available, and I'm also frustrated that we're also shooting like shit. Our role players are playing terribly, quite frankly. So just a frustrated Heat fan here. Our starting 4, big 4 if you want to call them that, Kyle Lowry, Tyler Herro, Jimmy, and Bam, have only played 12 games together out of 32 games this season. So going to be tough, to win games when 4 of your best players have played only a third of the season together. So that's got to be expected, though. I mean, what do we expect? Victor Oladipo, again, made a 7th appearance this season, started for the first time. He's only played 95 games over the past 4 seasons because of his knee and quad issues. Kyle Lowry, the last 3 years he's played 65 games, 46 and 63. Jimmy Butler, the last 4 seasons, 59, 65, 52, and 67. And Jimmy is probably on pace to play like 62 again this season. We are definitely doing load management with Jimmy and trying to save him for the playoffs. And it's just frustrating because I understand that we do want to have Jimmy fresh for the playoffs because he goes to another level when it gets to the playoffs and becomes one of the best top 5, top 10 players in the world during the playoffs. And so I understand that, but we need him in order to win games, and that's evident. We could barely beat, and I'm again not bucketing the Bulls with teams that are clearly tanking like the Spurs or the Detroit Pistons who are super young, but we're barely beating these teams. Like, our margin for error is so small. Like, we have to be rebounding well, which we don't do. We always lose if we lose the rebounding battle, which we did again last night. But if we're winning the rebounding battle, if we're shooting in the 40s as a team, which we're not doing this season from 3-point range, if our role players are stepping up, playing well, if we're doing really well defensively, and then if Jimmy, Bam, and Herro are scoring 20 points each, then we'll barely win by 3 to 5 points against teams like the Spurs, the Raptors, and some other teams that are below 500. And we're not going to be able to contend with teams like the Bucks or the Celtics or the Nuggets or the Grizzlies or the Suns or the Cavs with this roster and with how injured this team has been and how inconsistent this team has been. So we just, one, need a healthy squad so that we can compete. And then two, we need to make some sort of move and shake up this team because our role players are not playing as nearly as good as they did the last few seasons. So Max Strus is in just a huge shooting slump. He's shooting 17 for 70 from 3, which is 24% over his last 10 games, which is not cutting it. Duncan has been out of the rotation for most of the season. He's been playing recently because of injuries and our lack of depth. And he's doing okay. He strung together a few good games. Last night he did okay. He had 4 for 8 from 3 to start, and then he missed the rest of his shots and ended up 4 for 12. But he had 13 points. So players like that need to step up, and if they can't, we need to move them. So we still need to make some sort of trade before the deadline in February, and I think we really need a big, like either a backup center and a stretch 4. I'll keep saying this on all these videos. We keep getting bullied, out rebounded, and just we don't have enough when it comes to rebounding and defense and rim protection. So I really think we need, again, a 4 or a backup center, because I don't know when Omer Yurtseven is going to be coming back after his surgery. So he's going to be out for at least another month or so. So we definitely need to shake it up. I'm tired of seeing Dwayne Dedmon play, who has one of the worst plus minuses of any player in the NBA this season. So again, frustrated with this loss. The Heat are playing again on Friday at home against the Pacers, who are now below 500. They're in 9th place. They're 15 and 16. So we're 1-1 against them. We'll see. Might be a tough game at home. The last game we barely beat the Pacers, and that was with their best players, having horrible shooting games. Halliburton was, I think, 1 for 9 in that game and 0 for 8 from 3. And I think we won by 5 points. So, yeah, not sure what's going to happen on Friday night, but we will see. Hopefully we'll get a few players back. I'm assuming Jimmy will be back, which will be very helpful. I don't know about Kyle Lowry. We'll see. He's resting his sore knee. But we might get Caleb back, which will be impactful on the defensive end, especially with those 2 players. So we'll see. But yeah, thanks again for watching the video. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel, and I will see you guys soon.